It's a beautiful Saturday morning in Albuquerque, so let's go visit the New Mexico Museum of Natural History and Science. We'll be joined by hundreds of people and lots of young families. There's much to see and do here. I think everybody's favorite is the dinosaurs, and they're mine too. With all this environmental enrichment and stimulation happening, coupled with social interaction between families and children, synaptogenesis is going on in their brains, with an explosion of new dendrites and connections. A growing body of research suggests that this is associated with increases in cognitive development, learning, memory, and even intelligence. In Chapter 8, we'll explore the definition of intelligence, along with IQ tests and exceptional children. Chapter 8, Intelligence, consists of 3 modules: What is intelligence? Measuring intelligence, and Special Children, Special Needs. Module 1, What is intelligence? How do you define intelligence? This has to be one of the most controversial ideas in all of psychology. If you were to line up 10 psychologists in front of you and asked us, what is your definition of intelligence? I promise you, we would give you 10 different definitions. There's no agreement. In fact, your definition of intelligence is just as good as mine. Now, when it comes to measuring intelligence on a test and trying to make some decisions for that information, then we have to agree. There has to be a consensus on something. But until then, it's totally wide open. One question that has been studied more than any other, and that is this: is intelligence a general ability, or is it made up of different specific abilities? This first approach is the idea that intelligence is a general factor that underlies all tasks, so that if you're intelligent in one area, you're probably intelligent in other areas, and this is called the G factor. The other basic approach is that there are specific abilities, separate and distinct from each other, that overshadow any general factor, and this is called S, or specific abilities or even specific factors. Traditional theories are psychometric. They're rooted in IQ test scores. This is the idea that intelligence can be summarized by a single IQ score. Spearman, with his theory of a G factor and specific abilities playing a supportive role, and Thurstone, with his theory of primary mental abilities completely trumping any G factor, are both old school. Nowadays, we have modern theories of thinking and development for a broader view of intelligence, with the pendulum swinging a little bit still towards Thurstone's ideas of specific abilities. One of the most influential and far-reaching of these theories is Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. And he identified 9 distinct types of intelligence. The first 3 are linguistic, logical mathematical, and spatial, which he refers to these 3 as traditional, still from psychometric theories of intelligence that are measured in the traditional IQ tests. The last 6 are non-traditional, and these are not measured by old school IQ tests. And these include musical, bodily kinesthetic, interpersonal, intrapersonal, naturalistic, and existential. Let's explore a few more of these in detail. People with high verbal linguistic abilities are good with words and language. They learn easily through the spoken and written word. and they enjoy reading, listening, speaking, writing, and telling stories. People with strong logical mathematical abilities prefer learning through logical reasoning and problem solving. They are quite skilled at using numbers as abstract representations in critical thinking. If you have above average visual spatial ability, then you learn visually and can organize ideas spatially. This person thinks in images and pictures, and he or she can visualize or see things in their mind's eye. And as you might imagine, they can make pretty good artists. If you have high musical intelligence, you probably have good pitch and are able to sing, play musical instruments, and compose music. These folks enjoy learning through songs, patterns, rhythms, instruments, and musical expressions. If one of your strengths is bodily kinesthetic, you probably have good control of bodily motions and can handle objects skillfully. This person learns through interaction with the environment and concrete experiences. People with good interpersonal intelligence enjoy learning by interacting and cooperating with others in groups. They show sensitivity to others' moods and feelings and like to solve problems through discussion. For those of you going into education, we try to foster all 9 types. We want to use instruction that engages in as many of these multiple intelligences as possible, because that helps to strengthen and deepen whatever it is we're teaching to the child and for their learning. We never pigeonhole a child, but at the end of the day, to be fair, there will be some focus on the child's strengths. Those of you who want to teach, you may work for a school someday that really embraces Gardner's theory. But not all American schools accept his ideas. There is some controversy. But I would say his greatest contribution is that he helped child psychologists and educators break out of the box of a narrow, constricted, psychometric view of intelligence to a much broader range that it is today. Another popular modern theory is Sternberg's theory of successful intelligence, also known as the triarchic theory of intelligence. Sternberg theorizes that there are 3 largely unrelated kinds of abilities, or specific factors, if you will, that are labeled analytical, creative, and practical. Analytical is the ability to analyze problems and make decisions. This is what IQ tests measure, and they largely depend on skills requiring reading and math. Analytical intelligence is what I call the ability to learn what is already known. If you're high in analytical intelligence, you probably have very good grades, great SAT scores. You may be at the top of your class. Congratulations, you have a lot of what's called book smarts. Creative is the ability to deal successfully with novel problems. People high in creative ability are inventive and enjoy problem solving. Creative intelligence is what I call the ability to learn what is not already known. If you're high in creative intelligence, but maybe not so high in the analytical department, you may not have the best grades in class. You definitely may not be at the top of your class. You may be bored in class. You may be saying, why do I got to learn this? It's in the book. It's online. Your attitude may be, give me a problem that's hard and difficult to solve where there's no easy solution. Congratulations, you are very high in creative smarts. Practical is the ability to use a workable plan or solution. Practical intelligence is what I call the ability to, and I'm paraphrasing Larry the Cable Guy, just get her done. Or as Nike says, just do it. If you're high in practical intelligence, but not so high in analytic and creative smarts, you know your strengths. You work well with others. You have a lot of common sense. Congratulations, you're very high in street smarts. Module 2, Measuring Intelligence. Alfred Binet, a French school psychologist, developed the first intelligence test in 1908. The French government was overwhelmed with children coming to school for the first time in their lives because of new child labor laws and mandatory education. They asked Binet to help identify which children would benefit from academic instruction and who would not. Binet and his assistant, Theodore Simon, discovered through research what children of various ages could do in the way of answering different kinds of problems, including information, comprehension, arithmetic, vocabulary, building blocks to match a design, putting together puzzles, or successfully navigating mazes. Binet is testing children in France, and here's how it worked. We have a 3-year-old who performs and does what the average 5-year-old can do on the test. That 3-year-old would be said to have a mental age of 5. But later in the day, we're testing a 5-year-old, but he or she performs at the level of the average 3-year-old. That child would be said to have a mental age of 3. And Binet and his associates determined that if your mental age was 2 or more years higher than the chronological age, you'd be classified as bright. But if your mental age was 2 years or more below the chronological age, you'd be classified as slow. Here in the United States, we experienced a similar dramatic increase in children coming to school. Louis Terman, a psychologist at Stanford University, translated the Binet-Simon into English, and he popularized the usage of the IQ, which is a way to measure intelligence. And here's how it worked. The formula for IQ is mental age divided by chronological age times 100. Here's some examples. We have a child who's 5 years old. That's their chronological age. That goes at the bottom. And they achieve a mental age of 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. Times 100 equals what? 100. That is their IQ. That is right smack dab in the middle of the average range, which is a great place to be. Here's another example. We have a child who is 4 years old. Again, chronological age, we'll put that as the denominator. But they test out very well. Their mental age is 6. 6 divided by 4 is 1.5. Times 100 would be what? 150. That would be their IQ. That child, we would say, is bright, accelerated, doing very well. But now let's take the instance of the child who is 6 years old, chronological. That goes at the bottom. But their mental age tests out to be 4. 4 divided by 6 times 100 equals approximately 67. And that IQ is significantly below average. We would say that this child is lagging behind. They're progressing slowly, probably needs educational remediation. And that's how Terman's original work with the IQ worked. Terman's American Intelligence Test is called the Stanford Binet. Stanford because he worked at Stanford University here in California, that's where it was developed, and Benet because he translated the original Benet Simone items. The Stanford Benet led the way for intelligence testing with American children, and it's still a popular test today after many revisions. Myself, I've given many Stanford Benets to children. Do these IQ tests really work? Well, it takes many years and a lot of money to construct a reliable and valid IQ test such as the Stanford Benet or the Wechsler Intelligence Scale for children. But after all is said and done, we do have some IQ tests that are useful and powerful instruments. What we know from research is that at age 5, a child's IQ score starts to correlate with their adult IQ, and this correlation gets steadily larger, reaching a peak at puberty. IQ tests as a single predictor do a reasonable job of predicting school success, although it's far from a perfect correlation of 1.0. And the IQ score also does a reasonable job of predicting performance for highly complex jobs in the workplace. Heredity and environment both play a great role in the development of intelligence. Research clearly shows that identical twins raised together have a much greater similarity in intelligence than fraternal twins raised together or siblings raised together. Unrelated children raised together in the situation of an adoptive home show the lowest correlation in intelligence. But environmental factors play a huge role too, and there are 3 main lines of supporting evidence. Children with high IQ test scores tend to come from homes that are well organized with lots of play materials. Secondly, IQ scores have risen each decade in the last century in the United States. Perhaps this is because families have become smaller and better educated, with more leisure time. And thirdly, enrichment daycare programs such as Head Start have been shown to increase IQ scores. Children who participate in high-quality Head Start programs are less likely to repeat a grade and more likely to graduate from high school. The first group to consider are gifted and creative children. In the old days, this was narrowly defined as a child who tested out with an IQ of at least 130 or higher. But today, that definition has become much more broader to include children with creative talents in the areas of art, music, writing, dance, any type of exceptional creativity. By the way, these children, compared to their peers, are generally more mature and with fewer emotional problems. But creativity has to be nurtured or it will wither on the vine. And finally, at the other extreme, are youngsters with disability. Children with intellectual disability, also known as mental retardation, meet 3 criteria. They test out with an IQ below 70. They exhibit problems adapting to the environment, including dressing, grooming, money management, food preparation, and social skills that we would expect for a child their age. And lastly, the onset is before age 18. It's been a great day at the museum, even for my own educational enrichment. Time to hit the bookstore, grab some quick souvenirs, and I'll see you next time in Chapter 9, Language and Communication. Bye-bye.